Today I'll be reviewing Boruto Chapter 41, The New Team 7. Lots of things to talk about after this chapter. One thing I know the fandom is talking about is Boro stronger than Delta? Which I'll talk about at the end of the video, and Karma's new weakness that was introduced during this chapter. So if this is your first time watching, I like to go through the chapter and talk about individual things that I found interesting and what it might possibly lead to in the future. So the chapter starts with Kawaki revealing Karma's weakness, which some people think was needed because it was seemingly too broken to some people, because if Boruto had the ability to absorb and then re-release every sort of jutsu, that would be absolutely broken. But in this chapter, we find out from Kawaki that the Karma can't absorb natural elements if they're combined with ninjutsu, which is why they couldn't absorb Boro's mist in the last chapter. So if you didn't understand that, basically, if Sarada fired a fireball jutsu at Boruto or Kawaki, they could absorb it and then throw it right back at her because it's made completely of chakra. But say she combined it with her fire that was already started naturally, then they wouldn't be able to absorb it. So for example, a jutsu that Boruto and Kawaki wouldn't be able to throw back at anybody would be Sasuke's Kirin, because he uses it along with the lightning that he helps form in the sky. Continuing on with the chapter, we find out that Mitsuki used his snake to absorb some of the mist and tells Sarada to analyze it, and she finds out that there are viruses in it and it's making them sick. And Mitsuki and Sarada come to the conclusion that Boro is using ninja tools to release the viruses because there's no ninjutsu that they know of that can release viruses. Then Mitsuki says that they need a captain to lead them when things get rough, and says that Sarada has already saved them, which in the previous chapter, so they agree. Even though Boruto was a bit upset, he goes with it too. And something I like from this moment is Mitsuki calling the shots but telling Sarada to be the leader, which shows that he has the ability to lead as well, despite him being a character that doesn't talk often. There's also Boruto, who's a bit upset but also came around to it relatively quickly compared to how fast I guess Naruto would have came around. Because if you said you were going to make Sasuke the leader, Naruto would have thrown a fit. But my favorite part of that interaction was Sarada saying Captain Sarada does have a nice ring to it, even though it's not quite as nice as Hokage. I also like how earlier when Mitsuki told Sarada to analyze the mist, she was like, that's a lot of pressure, but said okay, she'll do it anyway. So I always enjoy seeing Sarada trying to push through and prove that she has what it takes to be Hokage one day, and her becoming their captain, voted by Mitsuki in this chapter, is a huge stepping stone towards it. So after that, Team 7 puts their plan into motion with Sarada acting as a decoy approaching Boro. And she has to take a lot of hits before she can land the fireball jutsu, which would actually only serve as a distraction so that Boruto and Kawaki can come in later and then hit him with the Rasengan unison attack, which I thought was pretty cool. I can't wait to see that animated. So it looks like, I don't know if we've been introduced or showed this before, but Boruto and Kawaki can combine their powers into one person and hit them with one boosted attack is what it looks like. I wonder if he can only do that with Boruto because their karmas resonate, or if he could do it with anybody. Could we possibly see him and Sarada do a unison fireball jutsu? But if I had to take a guess, I would say it's because their karmas can resonate, that they can perform that attack together. But then Boro revives himself like a Namekian, and we find out that Boruto and Kawaki were able to move again because Mitsuki gave them antibodies. And I like how Mitsuki says it's because of Orochimaru's influence that he decided to do that. But something else I want to talk about is Kawaki saying, I forgot you had regenerative abilities, and they're greater than I thought. This dude is forgetting absolutely everything until it happens. This literally happened during the Delta fight, and now it's happening now. He literally just needs to write down a list of all of the Kara and all of their abilities. Otherwise, we're going to be ill-prepared every single time. That is, unless he decides to get captured this time, or if something goes wrong, because we have no idea what will happen at this point. Because based on how you want to look at it, Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki are our last defense against the Otsutsuki, or against the Kara, I guess. Because I don't see anybody else in the village actually putting up a fight, but then again, we don't know how strong the Kara are at this point. If they're at Kage level, Are they near Momoshiki? It's honestly hard to tell because Naruto was holding back when he was fighting Delta, but Delta was seemingly putting up a good fight, but it's honestly hard to tell at this point. And then Jigen was just mopping the floor with Naruto and Sasuke, which was weird to me. I still find it hard to believe that there was someone out there on Earth who's been strong enough to just fight on equal terms with Naruto and Sasuke, unless they came from space or something. But back to what I was talking about before, Mitsuki and the antibodies. He says that was Orochimaru's influence and that he decided to do it because if Boro had a virus, he would have to have antibodies for it. So then we get to the end of the chapter and we see Team 7 surround Boro, and Sarada says to stick to their plan because Boruto's already trying to act a fool. And Kawaki says to himself that he'll rescue Lord 7th no matter what as he's looking over at his ramen seal. And then if you look at the panels, you see Boruto notices Kawaki looking at him and then says there are many ways to break up your teamwork, and then he rushes towards Naruto or towards Naruto's seal, and Kawaki follows, and that's exactly where the chapter ends. So it looks like Boro is rushing towards Naruto's seal and is trying to basically bait in Kawaki to come towards him, probably so that he can grab him and then force Team 7 to stop or force them to attack Kawaki. Honestly, this chapter was great from start to finish. We got Team 7's teamwork. We got to see them follow a plan and put it into motion. We learned more about the Karma's weakness, and we were able to figure out Boro's jutsu. And something else I want to take note of that went on in this chapter is Mitsuki's leadership skills. I know this chapter was about Sarada becoming the commander, but we actually saw a lot of leadership skills from Mitsuki. When you go back throughout the chapter, it was Mitsuki in the beginning who trapped Boro's mist and suggested that Sarada used her Sharingan to analyze it, which is how they figured out that it was a virus. He's also the one he and Sarada are the ones who came up with the conclusion that he was probably using a ninja tool because no jutsu can cause harm to chakra in that way. And he's the one who said that they needed a leader if they wanted to make it through this. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Mitsuki became a Chunin after this, because Mitsuki and Sarada both, but I think Sarada should have became Chunin instead of Shikadai, which they showed in the anime. But that's a discussion for a different time. But Mitsuki, I think now that in the manga, he's ready to become a Chunin as well. Because up until this point, it just seemed like he was following Boruto and going along with the ride and fighting when he had to or when he felt like it. But in this chapter, we saw his skill set on full display. I'd say both Sarada and Mitsuki led the team during this chapter. But if I had to pick an MVP, it'd definitely go to Mitsuki because of the reasons I just mentioned. But if you wanted to, you can give Sarada just as much praise because it was her Sharingan that was able to analyze the antibodies. And it was her who came up with the plan later on in the chapter. She's also the one that Mitsuki credits to saving them in the last chapter because she helped them escape. But I'd say both of them went through a lot of character development in this episode. I'd say especially Mitsuki because I feel like anime Mitsuki would have selected Boruto as the leader and followed whatever he would do and say, hey, Boruto's unpredictable, we should just let him take the reins. But Mitsuki now is using true analysis. But that could also be attributed to the fact that Mitsuki hasn't really faced true danger in the anime, except for when Urashiki came or the other Otsutsuki. It was Urashiki who stole his Sage Mode chakra. I think that was the only time Mitsuki has ever truly been threatened in the series, in the anime at least. And so with that, I'm wondering if Boruto, if we're going to see Mitsuki use Sage Mode against Boro, because we saw him coming up with a plan and using the antibodies. I don't know if he's going to be out of chakra like Sasuke, but if Mitsuki uses Sage Mode and they can pull off an attack like that again, I think they'll be able to beat Boro, but I don't know. They're the Kara. But I'm not sure if Delta is stronger than Boro. If Boro is stronger than Delta, I don't think they're winning. But if Delta is stronger than Boro, and based on how we've seen Boro flop so far against them, and how they've been able to analyze and break down his jutsu and predict his movements, I'm wondering if they can actually beat Boro. I'm thinking Mitsuki might be a huge X factor in that equation because we haven't seen him use Sage Mode in the manga once yet, aside from what Kishimoto wrote in his Mitsuki Gaiden basically for the movie. We haven't seen him use Sage Mode since then. and in the anime, so anything can happen within these chapters now. One thing I definitely wasn't expecting was for Boro to get blasted to shreds and then come back instantly, within 4 pages or after 4 pages. Once Delta got blasted, or she blew up herself, she was able to come back because she had like her subconscious somewhere else, or she was able to transfer it to another body. But it looks like Boro just has the ability to revive himself, so I'm wondering if he has the karma, how much of him is a cyborg like Delta, or if he even is a cyborg. Well, I think him being a cyborg is a given based on him reviving himself, but I'm wondering if he has karma and the ability to transfer his body to another one like Delta. We've seen Boro use a lot of ninjutsu so far compared to everyone else we've seen in the cars so far, aside from Ao, I believe. So Delta was mostly like ninja tech. She had laser beams and was using karma from her eyeballs. But we've seen Boro use hand signs like a ninja. So I'm wondering if he was a previous ninja who joined Kara and got all these attachments to him. Was he just made to be like a ninja? Because seemingly before it seemed like ninjutsu was foreign to them. They didn't know much about the Land of Fire and the Hokage stuff. But with members like Boro and Ao, even though Ao was an outer member and Boro's an inner member, they're using ninjutsu, so I'm wondering how much they actually know, how much ninjutsu they use. Although we saw Jigen fought like an Otsutsuki, and that was probably because of Ichiki's influence, but I'm wondering what the other members of the Kara fight like or what they use. I'm wondering if Code will appear soon, because he's the other Otsutsuki that we know of, or not Otsutsuki. The other Kara member that we know of. I'm also wondering if Boro, if he's an inner member, if he brought an outer member with him, because that's usually how it goes when you in a shonen fighting, you go from strong to weak or weak to strong. But based on the order we've gotten so far, we went from weak to strong, and then strong, because we went from Ao and outer to the inner Delta, and then we went straight to Jigen. So that's a boss fight. We went from weak to strong to boss fight, and now we're back to strong. Basically, if Jigen is a 1 and Delta and Boro are a 2, I was a 3. So we went from 3 to 2 to 1 and now back to 2. Which realistically, we should have gotten 2 before we got Boro. Basically, I was expecting Boro, or the person we're fighting now, to be an outer member, not an inner member. Unless we get the plot twist that Boro is actually an outer member. But I don't think so, because he was in that meeting with the Delta and the others. But I guess that's all I have to talk about for this chapter. I guess we'll find out or get more answers in the next chapter. I wonder if we'll beat Boro in the next chapter, or if an outer member will show up to back up Boro if he's losing. I'm also wondering if we're going to see Kashin Koji versus Jigen, or possibly in the next chapter we see Mitsuki go Sage Mode and they wrap this all up. But let me know what you're expecting for the next chapter in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Let me know if I missed anything. Thanks for watching, and bye.